Parents of Reddit, what is most fricked up secret you are hiding from your children? My father found out, when he was in his 40s, that his father was not his biological father. His mother, my grandmother, literally cheated on her husband with the milkman. My mom kept it a secret that the woman I was named after, her mom, my grandma, was stabbed to death by my uncle when my mom was 18. I always suspected my grandma had a tragic death because of how my mom would avoid talking about it, but I didn't know it was that tragic. That we don't go to bed the same time as they do. A colleague of mine has a friend who hid from her 8-year-old daughter that she, the 8-year-old, would die within a few years because of a terminal illness she got. That she can't have a relationship with her grandfather because he's and I would never trust him. The rest of my family maintains a relationship with him and leans on me hard to open up communication because family comes first. They are absolutely right. My family does come first, which is why my daughter won't ever have to have a relationship with him. My daughter was conceived at work, on airport property, in the back of a freaking Ford Focus, while we were waiting for a med flight to land. She knows nothing about this, but tells me she wants to be a pilot when she grows up. I'm the child of a parent that hid something horrible until I was 27. One day when my parents has a domestic dispute, my dad called me just to get back at my mom. He said, "Do you want to know something about your whole mother? She slept with over 30 guys during our first 2 years of marriage." I just sat down and started stuttering. He said, "You know how people have always said you look different than the rest of the kids?" I said, "Yeah. That's because I'm not your dad. Your mom slept with my best friend and you were conceived. Another thing, your brother, the one just younger than me, I'm the oldest, belongs to my brother." My mom just bawled in the background without denying it. I just laughed. And then I went into 2 years of therapy. My dad cheated on my mother while she was going through cancer treatments. My mother asked for a divorce. He said, "Go and take the kids." Every Valentine's Day I would receive flowers from my dad and get so happy. My mom would smile and nod and get excited with me. I would call him and thank him. He never sent me flowers. It was my mom all the years. Same thing with birthday cards and Christmas gifts from him. They were never from him. My mom just put his name on them in similar handwriting. Went as far as writing return addresses on mail too. My mom was a superhero of a single parent. It was a secret until recently my mom told me. When she and my dad got divorced, things were very messy and my dad would do awful things to dodge paying for my care. He ended up owing my mom a couple $1,000 and my mom was ready to sue. But instead of getting the lawyers involved, and because she knew my dad was not a healthy person to be in my life, she offered him a deal: keep the money, but relinquish custody officially. I'd still get to see him if and when I wanted, but he would give up all legal rights as a guardian. Because he hated paying my mom that much, he took to K over me. Not a life-changing, earth-shattering secret. It's just revealing to know my dad values money more than me. Before anybody casts judgment on my mom, my dad was, and probably is, a piece of human garbage who, me and allowed me to be abused a few years after this, so I'm 1000% fine with my mom's decision. She's my favorite person in the world, and every single day I'm so lucky to have her in my life. Adoptive parent of 3 kids, 2 of which are biological siblings and cousins. Found out a year after the adoption that the biological parents were half siblings who shared the same dad. The BO parents found out after they had the first child and proceeded to have another. The kids are now 16 and 13 respectively and have zero clue that they are a product of. Unfortunately, their biological grandpa just passed away, so there very well could be a big reveal coming in the near future. That I've been changing every clock in the house on New Year's Eve to 3 hours early. At 9 PM we celebrate the new year, then hang out for an hour. He thinks he's breaking every rule and has a great time. Now that he's turning 11, this will never happen again. With phones and being somewhat smarter. Lol. I was the kid in the scenario. When I was like 12, my dad died of leukemia. He was never around much, so I didn't see him often, but that was never the secret. I actually remember the day he took off and left us. Woke up one morning and there was a pile of new toys on the living room floor with a note for mom. Anyway, he started coming around when he received the prognosis. We developed something resembling a positive relationship before he died. When he passed, it absolutely destroyed me. I still remember the funeral. I had to be dragged kicking and screaming out of the car because I didn't want to see it. In his will he left me his car, a Camaro, that I was supposed to get when I turned 16. His parents fought tooth and nail to keep it from me. They were really crappy people. His entire side of the family was, and we eventually just told them to frick off and keep the dang thing. Fast forward about 15 years. I find out the guy that died was not actually my dad. He was my brother's dad. My real, biological dad has been living in the next town over 20 minutes from my house my entire life. My entire family knew about it, except for me. It was why my grandparents fought to keep the car. They knew I was not his son. I still don't know if he knew or not, but I assume so. My maternal grandmother has met him several times in my life. My mom said she never thought it was anything worth digging up. Said she intended for me to never find out. I've still never spoken to him. I know a name and an approximation of where he lives, as of about 10 years ago. Beyond that, I know jack about the guy. Grandma said if I ever want to meet him, she would help me contact him. Dunno if I ever will. I'm hiding out of things. I used to be a tripper for 10 years. Growing up in an abusive house, I partied hard and used to be part of New York City and Montreal club scene. That I was kidnapped and taken to another country. There's a lot of things. Now I'm just a boring accountant mom to everyone. No one has any clue what I've been through. Crazy what your kids don't know about you. I'm the child, 48F, but my father told me my mother was dead all throughout my childhood and everyone in the family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, stepmother, supported the lie. Not because my mother was on drugs or abusive, or a criminal, or even a bad person. Just because they had a huge argument one night and she went to stay with a friend, without me, so he decided she would never be allowed to be in my life again. Ever. He wrote her off. On my 18th birthday, she called our house and asked to speak with me. So, I found out the truth. I can see this. My daughter was just born with a rare congenital heart defect. She'll be aware she has it as she grows, but at some point we are going to have to tell her she'll be lucky to live to 40. That conversation is many years away, but it churns my stomach thinking about the burden she'll carry. My grandma never told my grandpa that he had Parkinson's and dementia. The last 2 years of his life were pretty bad, but I don't think he ever knew what was happening to him. About 90% of the time he was just gone, but every once in a while there would be a short period where you could tell he was mentally present. He knew something was terribly wrong, but didn't know what, and kept asking when his medicine would start working. He didn't know the medicine was just to keep him calm and comfortable. It was a blessing when he finally passed away. I can't imagine being in a situation like that, where you suddenly come to and know something's wrong, but no one will tell you what. Then you drop off again and come back days or weeks later. He was a terrible human being, but I don't think even he deserved that. My wife and I each have a child from a previous marriage. Both of our ex-spouses were abusive cheaters. Both children still adore and idolize their other parent and we just keep smiling and nodding. This probably isn't the type of thing Op was asking, but it is a secret that we will maintain for years. Edit. Thanks everyone for the replies and commiserative stories. Makes us feel better that we are not the only ones keeping things like this a secret. Before I found out I was pregnant with my first child, I took a crap ton of pills. I think it's the closest I've ever come to ending it. I had always dealt with anxiety and depression. I feel like the extra hormones put me over the edge. I found out about a week later that I was pregnant. Surprise. I was terrified the entire pregnancy that something would be wrong with him. Luckily, he was completely healthy and is an incredibly smart child. I've never told anyone. I feel so guilty. My sister didn't realize she was pregnant until she was about 3 months along. She was 21, so of course she had been drinking heavily the whole time. She said she couldn't figure out why she'd start throwing up after only a couple drinks, but she'd always go back and keep drinking. I guess her body succeeded in keeping the little guy safe because he's 6 and other than being a spoiled brat. There's nothing wrong with him. My whole family thinks I'm awful with money because I'm super broke despite having a good job, but I'm actually socking away every spare penny to put my niece through college and to take care of my parents when they can't work anymore. Thank you so much for watching, and soobscrooble if you want.